this video, I'm going to describe the identifying important science ideas practice in the context of the to reflect or not to reflect, that is the question data puzzle. So the goal of this practice is to help students identify important science ideas that are introduced in an interactive reading we're calling the puzzle plot. And so we're going to do this by helping students connect science ideas from the reading back to the opening scenario. We'll have students summarize key ideas by creating an annotated sketch, which will function as their de facto initial model. And then we'll have students identify and then make a prediction for an investigative question that's presented in the reading. Teachers have facilitated this practice in a couple of different ways. One, many classrooms have chosen to read the text aloud, pausing to watch any videos that are embedded in the text and discuss graphics. Others have opted to have students read and engage with the videos and images in small groups or individually. We'd encourage you, if you have close reading strategies that you use with students already, to have students utilize those strategies and annotate the text however they maybe already are accustomed to. So after engaging with that opening scenario, again, eliciting ideas about albedo and how that shows up, maybe we haven't used that term yet, but how that shows up in their lives, we introduced the scientist Jen, who's measuring the reflectivity of Earth's surface and how that's changing. And so we're going to learn more about Jen's research in this puzzle plot text. So again, individually, small groups as a whole class, reading this text. Students are going to be asked to circle the investigative question that the scientist is seeking to answer. And that question for this data puzzle is, how might the Arctic's albedo be affected by the observed decline in sea ice? And then have students underline similarities between the reading and the opening scenario. So after students have, again, engaged with this text, and before we ask them to summarize these important science ideas, we want to have a whole class conversation about similarities that students picked up on between the reading and the opening scenario. So much of the text is about changes in sea ice extent, as well as the different reflectivity of the Arctic. What's the reflectivity of a dark surface like the ocean versus the reflectivity of a lighter surface like sea ice, and make connections between those concepts and what we engage with in the open scenario about dark colored roofs being painted white or running to an ice cream truck across dark pavement and that feeling really hot. So again, trying to bring in student individual experiences to a new context, that being the Arctic. After facilitating this discussion, it's time to turn students to the first 3 questions on their student worksheet, where they're going to be asked to draw and describe how sunlight shining on sea ice differs from sunlight shining on ocean water. They're going to record the investigative question and then make a prediction about that investigative question. I'm going to head now to the student worksheet for this to reflect or not to reflect data puzzle. Looking here at the puzzle plot text, a graph showing changes in sea ice extent for the Arctic over the last 40 years. That visualization is linked here for you to watch with students. Conversation about what albedo is, and how the albedo or reflectivity of a surface is a function of the surface color. A couple more graphics that help communicate that idea, and then a little bit about Jen's work measuring Earth's energy budget and the reflectivity of Earth's surface being an important factor in that. Question 1, here's where students would annotate this image to draw and describe how sunlight shining on sea ice differs from the ocean, space for that investigative question, and then the prediction about how the albedo will change with declining sea ice. And so that will conclude part 2 here, the identifying important science ideas. And students are now ready to move on to part 3, where they'll analyze a data set to test their prediction.